to switch sides. So this sort of brings me to another point and another kind of a key issue, and something I should go over at this point. When we're talking about outer rotation of the thigh, which is this direction away from the midline, that's complemented by a movement of the pelvis that goes posterior, back, right? If you roll the pelvis back, the other thigh drops. When I rotate my pelvis forward, as we all acknowledge when we're sitting against the wall, then the pressure is of the thighs being pushed out, like this. Okay, so I'm going to sit with my pelvis forward, and I've got my femur bone pinned in an internal rotation. But the first part of my pose, in order to get my leg up, this is about outer rotation. I can't even do that. But if I sit with my pelvis forward and now I try and bring my leg up in outer rotation, they're contradicting each other. That make sense? And because this is pushing forward this way, and now what am I going to do with this foot? I'm going to pick it up. You see why there might be a problem here? So in order for me to get my foot up, this is about outer rotated, so I'm going to let my pelvis rotate back. But in a sense, I'm also taking the weight out and away from my joints. Okay, so this is, I feel that people don't so much injure themselves in poses, they injure themselves getting from one position to the other. They injure themselves in the transitions. Because if we are creating awareness in our body in our practice, we tend to use that awareness when we're in the pose. But when we're changing poses, we're not thinking about the transitions and the shifts and that takes place. And so quite often I find things like this, sitting upright, trying to take your foot up, with the thighs pinned forward, and now all the stresses goes into the knee. So I tend to call the knee the victim in this process. It's victimized by the fact that our hips are tight. It's victimized by the fact that the inner legs are tight, and somehow the pressure always ends up in the knee. So bringing the foot into position, we're going to take the weight back. We're going to pull the weight away from the joint. I'm going to bring my foot into the position as described, and then I'm going to come back into it. It makes all the difference in the life. And the same thing you go out of it. So now, do the same actions. We're creating space on the inner knee. Drawing the upper thigh back. Working towards the top of the foot. Even lean forward, let the sitting bones release for a moment, and then reground them back onto the floor. And take your hands forward. Start by pushing back, feel that action. Keep the sitting bones grounded. Okay, so now here's a key point of observation. As you press the hands and start to pull your hips forward, you don't want the thigh to do anything but lengthen. Can you feel? And again, we took our hand here to the upper thigh to avoid it from rotating in any more than it is. Just stay where it is. Keep lengthening. Now let's take the right hand outside the right leg. Press the right hand and pull the right leg back into the socket. Try and feel that the same thing is going on in the left leg as well. So in the process, the right hip comes back, the left hip comes more forward. Now keep both sitting bones on the floor and start to pull. So in other words, this instruction that goes all the way back to Paschimottanasana, keeping the sitting bones grounded. Okay, now let them lift and keep going forward. And where do you feel the pressure starting to move? It goes right into your knee joint. So if you're not maintaining this position, if you're not holding these actions in your body to go forward, it happens very innocently. We're not trying to do anything wrong, but this is what happens. It's happened to me for years, and I had severe knee pain for probably 2 to 3 years before I thought, man, if I don't figure this out, I'm going to quit. So this is what a lot of this work has sort of come from. And it's about keeping all of these actions, but keeping the pressure out of the knee. And as soon as you go unconscious of these actions and start to deepen, it's going to go right back into your knee again. So is everybody able to feel that? And now again, coming out of it, I'm taking my leg back out of the fold. I'm going to release the pressure, put the weight out.
Grounding the outer hip and the grounding, like the outside of this connection is like super important.
So it's going back to what we were doing here, keeping the inner thigh, keeping the outer thigh, you know, just sort of recognizing and acknowledging that all of these things that we're finding, we're going to find them and keep going forward with them. It's not about like sort of going, oh, now let's go to this action. Okay, now we're going to go to this one. And losing everything we've done previously. The more you can sort of accumulate this process, the more you'll find, wow, I can do this and there's no pressure on my knees. And I'm working where it's good to work, I'm opening where it's good to open, and again, payoff is there's no pressure on the knees. Okay, so we're going to do the same sort of adjustments. We're going to start from here. We're going to set our partner up in this position, and going forward, we're going to find the symmetry here, and then we're going to make a shift. So also, just so you know, we don't have to make the shift all the way from here to here. So this is another important thing to realize, is I can create the shift now and go forward to here. Now I'm getting to here very well. I've got no pressure on my inner knee. Everything is going good. Maybe I can go a little deeper. Now my forward pressure is towards here. And eventually out of that process, you get to here. Now, just to sort of explain, there's actually kind of two versions of Janu. One is with the foot in the flex position, the other is with the toes pointed. This is actually a deeper version of the toes, but it's easier on the knee. This one makes it easier to square your hips. This one makes it easier to keep the pressure off your knee, harder to square your hips. Okay? So these are sort of things that you can use in the process, because if you're having problems with your knee, then you want to take care of that. But it's not going to go away until you stop aggravating. And in a sense, it's that simple. Feeling problems in your inner knee, you have to figure out how to stop aggravating. Because if you keep doing it, it's just going to get more and more inflamed.